Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 11 of season 4. This is Marriage Necessary? I'm Christian. I'm the host. I'm the heretic here at Holy Smoke, Cigars, and Spirituality, also the pastor of the Faith Community. And we are excited tonight to be back for another episode. Shout out to everybody in our Patreon community who's with us in the live virtual audience. We just had a little story time before we recorded this episode, and it was fun to say the least. We've already talked about failed marriages. If you want to know what we were talking about, join us on Patreon. You can hear the whole story. And then shout out to everybody who listens to us on the various podcast platforms. Tonight, we have a very special guest. You've heard us mention his name a time or two because he's one of our producers. His name is Cody Cox. We call him the professional. And Cody is here to bless us tonight with some of his insight on marriage because he has a very unique story. And we're all about lived experience here. So I'm excited to have Cody join us. And like I said, we're all about lived experience. So let's go ahead and before we go any further, establish our one rule here at Holy Smokes. And today, to give us the one rule, we got Curvance Ross, the Kingmaker. Go on, give us a one rule, man.
I'm honored to be with you as Pastor Emeritus of Holy Smokes, and grateful to have this opportunity. We have established one rule that governs our whole operation, and that one rule is that we honor each other's lived experience.
Say it again, Doc. No.
We honor each other's lived experience.
One for the Father, one for the Son, and one for the Holy Ghost.
We honor
yes, sir.
Lived experience because we don't lift up or uplift theories over what people have actually lived. The healthy debates are welcome, but kindness is the key. And it is important because we believe that you cannot criticize something that you have not lived out. And this is rooted in our greatest commandment theology. This is curated by our senior pastor, and it is found in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 22, verses 33 through 40. Your love for God is displayed through how you love your neighbor. This is an extension of how you love yourself. So now that you get that, you cannot fully love God if you don't love your neighbor. And you cannot fully love your neighbor if you don't love yourself. And it is clear because you cannot give something away that you don't first possess. This is the rubric and the template for greatest commandment theology. We ask that you govern yourselves in the virtual space as well as in the replay space. And anytime that you come in contact with the faith community, with this template so that you can be successful and live your fullest and most loved life.
Shout out Curvance, the Kingmaker Ross. Thank you so much, sir. That was excellent. Now that we're all on the same page about this one rule, let's keep it pushing and get into some introductions. Got some of my favorite people on the planet here today. By way of introduction, this is what I'd like for you to do. Tell us, what are you smoking and or drinking, if anything, because neither are required unless you ask Karima. You got to have something to drink, but you know.
Stop lying and just tell people the truth. You know, you got to drink some shit up in here. Go
ahead. That's not me. That's not me, people. I didn't say it. Karima said it. So tell us, what are you smoking and or drinking? And then for everybody today, tell us, what is your marriage history? So like not just your current status, but like what has been your history with marriage? I'll go ahead and start. Today, I'm having the Holy Smoke Sweet Maduro. One of my favorite sticks is the one that we send out to those who are in our Holy Smoke Cigar Club and our aficionado crew. So we got some more coming real soon. And then I'm having this little beverage that I concocted coming into the spring. I don't remember what we called it. Pamela and I named it something apple bourbon crisp or something like that. So it's a combination of this is Evan Williams bottled and bond with some sour apple pucker and some ginger ale. Mix it all in. Some pretty pretty refreshing, crisp beverage for the spring and the summer. And my marriage history. So I'm 37. I'm currently married to my wife, Pamela, who was on the last episode about Black women and African spirituality. We call her the therapist. But I'm also divorced. So I got married when I was 23, and that marriage lasted for about 2.5 years. So I'm divorced and remarried. And if I can talk about my marital future, this will be my last marriage. So either I'm going to die married to Pamela, or I'm just going to be single if this doesn't work out. So Pamela, the pressure's on. Cody, go ahead, man.
Sure deal. Cody Cox, they call me the professional. First off, I am smoking like Christian. The Holy Smokes Sweet Maduro. Thank you much. It's always a good smoke at a good time. Drinking one of my faves, the Woodford Reserve. Just sipping on that, a little nice. And my marital experience, I was married for 20 years to a dear friend, and we had a great marriage. Unfortunately, she passed away in a tragic car accident in 2017. So instantly making me a widower. And like you, Christian, in that marriage, I was like, this is it. I'm riding this out. So I was always like, if this don't work, or for whatever reason, I find myself single again, I'm just going to be single. Because I'm going to tell you, marriage is hard work. So I was like, this is good. Well, you say what you say when you're there, but things change.
Say that well again, Reverend. Say that well again.
My whole life changed.
Oh, Robo shit.
And we'll get into some details, but in the process, I found that lightning does strike twice. Woo! The opportunity to love again has presented itself. Therefore, I plan to get married again.
Mama!
I feel the Holy Ghost.
So I'm currently in a relationship with, as you all know, the beautiful Miss Karima Akila, the truth. And we're doing all right 2 years in. That's my experience.
Oh, I felt that.
Everybody in the virtual audience, lift your hand as high as you see yourself going. My God, because that done bless me, Jesus. Every time I preach, when I'm making my transition, I'm going to stop and go, well, that well done bless me, bro.
Oh, my. I felt that on today. You know, it only makes sense to go to Karima the truth after that. Karima, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Ooh, Lord. I think I might need me a little sip first after that. It is so good to be with y'all lovely people. My name is Karima Akila, and around here I have the privilege of being called the truth. My marital history was that I got married my senior year of college. And I was married for 20 years.
Can't say college without mentioning Morgan State University. I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, of course. Of course. Can't forget the national treasure. That's right. And was married for 20 years. And my husband, out of the blue, one day started having chest pains and went to the hospital only to find out that he had some very rare form of lymphoma leukemia. And so we fought that for a year, and then he passed away in 2016, making me a widow with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kids.
Count them up.
So that's my marriage history. And yes, I have dreams do come true. Just when you think what you ain't never gonna do, because you know how you take your girl. Let me tell you what I ain't about fitting to never do no more. Yeah, you say all that with your neck and all that. But an amazing thing happens when you let go and you dream again. And I am so happy. I tell the professional there all the time, it had to be him. It couldn't have been nobody else. So we doing this thing. We doing it.
Hey man, let me tell you something. This got to be the best introduction in Holy Smokes history. Like I'm trying to stop from crying over here. This is heartwarming. Like God is in this moment. Y'all are blessing me.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
This is really beautiful. I just want to know, can I like, say a prayer or sing a song at the wedding or something? Like, at least can I get reserved seating? Just something.
Come on, you already know.
I have been rebuked already in these introductions, like I shouldn't say this is the end, but I'm gonna stick with it for right now because Pamela is my baby. You can't leave me, girl. No, but that's amazing. That's amazing to have a widower and a widow who are both married 20 years and then reconnected because you two knew each other in college, correct?
Right. We were friends 25 years ago.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So you can see now how this conversation could take shape because we're really big on lived experience. You know how some podcasts or shows you engage and they always want to get a subject matter expert, like, oh, here's the marriage specialist and here's the sex specialist. We really try to get people who have varied lived experiences because I believe that enriches conversation so much. So I'm excited to have these two be a part of this and lend their voices to this conversation. Let's keep going. Nikki, the anchor, go ahead, introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, I'm Nikki Hardiman and they call me the anchor here. And Karima and Cody, I feel so good. Like, I feel like I just put down a really good book where it all worked out at the end. So thank you so much. So tonight I'm inside, I'm not smoking anything, but I am drinking ranch water. I was drinking this at the the monthly get together Holy Smokes gathering yesterday.
Yeah.
And so ranch water, I visited a friend in Texas recently and learned about this drink, and I've been enjoying it because it's nice for the summer. It does require that you use the Topo Chico bottle of seltzer water. And history has it that on the ranch, the guys would take a swig of this and then pour tequila in, and that's your ranch water. So, but the way that I fix it is it has the Topo Chico and it has tequila and lime in it. So it's good, refreshing, cool. I've been enjoying it this summer. And my marital history. So I was married, I got married at 5 days shy of 22. I was a young baby. And I was married for 13 years. He and I had 3 children together, 2 who are still on this earth. We lost one in the middle. But he and I, the marriage didn't last and we got divorced. We have a wonderful co-parenting relationship. We actually have joked that we should do a TED Talk about co-parenting because we feel like we're pretty good at it. And it's actually kind of fun. Like we do that part well. I have dated since the divorce, but I'm not now. So is marriage in the future for me? I have no idea.
Well, if it is, I want an invitation to yours as well.
Indeed, of course.
I love it. So you just reminded me, I don't have a relationship with my ex-wife. That is done. So there's another dynamic there, right? You have a good working relationship with your ex-husband and you two co-parent together. I'm not going to say anything else. Let's keep going. Kingmaker, go ahead, man.
Yo, greetings and salutations, everybody. I am Kingmaker Kervance Ross, and I am smoking one of my favorite sticks, The New World by AJ Fernandez. And I'm a huge fan of this cigar. It's a great smoke. And I'm drinking this Scotch whiskey my wife got me called Loch Lomond Distillery. It is established in 1814, aged 12 years. Very good if you haven't tried it. And my marriage history is I've been married 7 times, because me and my wife this year are celebrating 14 years, and she's so amazing that every 2 years I try to marry her again. So she blesses me. She's the yin to my yang, and I'm grateful because when I started my business, it's the same time I got married. So my business is the same age as my marriage, and much like my business, as she's been a part of it, my business has been blessed as well. So plan on riding this process out with her. Still feels newlywedish, and because of the great friendship and the partnership, it's the best thing that's happened to me, and I'm grateful for it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I think you scared Myron the Mystic with your introduction about married 7 times. Myron's with us in the virtual audience today, and shout out to everybody else who's with us in the virtual audience. Angela said after she heard about Cody and Karima reconnecting after 25 years at Morgan State, she said, let me pull out that high school yearbook to see if she can find an old friend. And Latrice said that she's at the them kids daddy portion of co-parenting. So we're praying that she will progress through the stages and hopefully reach a place of great compatibility in her co-parenting experience. So we're glad to have everybody who's with us today in the virtual audience. Before we go any further, this is Holy Smokes Cigars and Spirituality. So we're going to bring today's cigar tip. And today I want to invite each and every one of you to the Heretics Humidor. Give me my music. What's up, fam? Welcome to the Heretics Humidor. I'm the Heretic, and I have a very simple tip today because there are a lot of beginners in this community who are not familiar with cigar smoking or cigar culture. So here's the one rule that no one told me before I smoked. Well, no, somebody did tell me. Kervance told me because he started smoking before me, and he told me this. But I find a lot of people who get into cigar smoking who were never told this rule. It's almost like hazing to invite somebody to smoke a cigar and not tell them this. Don't inhale. These sticks are way too potent to inhale that smoke into your lungs. The purpose of cigar smoking is not to inhale the smoke into your lungs. You pull on the cigar and then you just push the smoke out of your mouth. Now, here's something that always happens when I introduce somebody to cigars. They get real nervous and anxious and they do this. Don't do that. Don't kiss the cigar. Okay, we're not pecking the cigar. Pull in the smoke and then let it out. All right, so that's how you smoke a cigar. If you get that, it's going to help you a lot for those who are just getting into cigar smoking. And then the second part of the tip is you don't have to be a champion and try to smoke the whole thing. You can smoke half a stick and cut off the end and come back to it later. You don't have to try to get all the way down to the end of the nub. That's not necessary. Don't let anybody shame you into thinking you have to do that. Smoke at your own pace if you choose to smoke at all. That's the Heretics Humidor. Thank you so much. All right. Let's get into it today. So the topic of today's episode is the question, is marriage necessary? So this is the question I want to raise to get us started. Is marriage necessary? Cody, what do you think?
So, and bear with me, doing the behind the scenes as I'm talking is unusual for me. So
a challenge.
there you go. when you posed that question, I was already like, I don't know if it's necessary. I think it is desired, for me anyway, from my perspective. Not necessarily necessary, but definitely desired in such a way that it is the epitome of a relationship. It is what you work toward. I almost question why be in a relationship for a long period of time if you're not working towards something. Then once, of course, those who are married know, once you're in the marriage, the work continues. It ain't just wedding day and all is peachy and clean. The
Oh
real
yeah.
work begins after the wedding. But
Mhm.
no question, it is a desired, it's the epitome of a relationship. It is what you work toward. So not necessary, but desire. That's my answer.
No, I dig that. I dig that wholeheartedly. It's not necessary, but it's desired. And let's all, before we get into the comments and start shooting back and forth at what Cody said, Cody's talking about his lived experience. Marriage is desirable for him. We're not saying that marriage has to be desirable for you. So, don't fire back at him. You got your lived experience. He has his. For Cody, marriage is what he desires, is what he's working towards. So shout out to Cody, especially after 20 years of marriage, becoming a widower and still having that desire and that passion to move in that direction. I think that's cool.
But should I give a background of why it's desired?
Go ahead.
So those of us who grew up in the church, obviously, so many negatives around just being and fornicating in a relationship and being in a relationship and not being able to really, in my opinion, in my experience, truly experience all the benefits of being in a relationship. You move toward that, but marriage is the epitome because it is what we were told the greatest thing in the Bible. Even it is where Jesus performed his first miracle. And in some scholars, not proven in the Bible, Jesus was married too.
Uh-oh.
That's my belief.
Uh-oh.
That the woman in his life, formerly a prostitute and Mary Magdalene, was also his wife. She was the only, and some considered one of the disciples. And very much, she was at the cross when he died. First one to see him resurrected after seeing the stone rolled away. So all of that was a part of my growing up. My mother, who was a preacher, believed that, and didn't have a problem sharing that as we talked about Jesus's journey. So if it was the epitome of relationship in the Bible, then why wouldn't you want that for yourself?
And that is the Jesus that I serve. That's the one that I came to Jesus just as I was, weary, worn, and sad. That's it right there. That's that one.
That's very interesting. A lot of people, don't know that aspect of biblical scholarship, because so many times in our churches, we're only given one angle, and then we're told this is the absolute truth about this particular story. But anything in biblical scholarship, and especially when you go beyond biblical scholarship and go into theology in general, everything is pretty much up for debate. It's an abstract study. So it's good to hear that, you come from a background where there was a belief that Jesus was married. Now, I tend to believe that Jesus was single, and I like that perspective of Jesus personally. So I think that might even lend to how we respond to this question. Karima, you're in relationship with Cody. You also a widow. Like, tell us, is marriage necessary for you?
Good question. I like how you posed it at the end, because I was about to say, hell's no, not necessary. But for me, it is. And it's necessary for me for this one very selfish reason alone. At the end, first of all, what Pam said in the chat, yes, the legalities in there, but first of all, let's be clear, that Social Security ain't shit. Ain't shit. Ask me how I know. Okay. But then let me tell you what does matter. I don't want to be labeled as the special friend in the obituary. That's right.
Ooh.
That's why getting married is important to me. You better say it. Because when it comes, I want all of the honor that comes with marriage. I want the benefits. I want the recognition. I want what I make marriage mean. And I want that for me. And so for me, it is necessary, but it's not necessary for any other reason. It's not necessary that people get married. I was taught that, marriage is for procreation. Well, we all know that shit ain't true, because there's plenty of people out here procreating and ain't never been married. And obviously it ain't for the, got to be married, for the pleasure of the sexual relationships of marriage, because you can have plenty of that outside of marriage. So then the question really boils down to who says it's necessary and why do they say it? For this little chocolate girl right here, it most certainly is. I love the recognition. I love the benefits that comes with marriage. But the legalities and that end of the life stuff, aside from, my title in the obituary, that Social Security, let me tell you how I know. I stood at the little window, after my husband died. And I'm there trying to figure this out. I ain't never done this before, right? Never had no husband die before. So I'm standing there with my little pen and my little piece of paper. And I'm waiting for the lady to tell me how much I received. 20 years of marriage. And she said, oh yeah, you get $225. I'm writing down, okay, $2,200. She said, oh no. That's $225. Bitch, what? I'm sorry. 20 years of marriage and I get what? 225? Ain't no comments after that.
I ain't even filed for mine. Why bother?
Listen,
wow.
Thank God I had all these cheering, because it's because of them that I'm able to get something. So anyhow, marriage is most certainly necessary for me.
Wow. That says a lot. This is so interesting already. So interesting. Nikki, what about you? What are your thoughts on this whole is marriage necessary piece?
It has been a journey for me, trying to figure out where I am and all of that. I grew up in purity culture, and so marriage was absolutely necessary if I wanted to enjoy marital relations. And so that was one perspective, but getting divorced sucked. I didn't like it. It wasn't fun. And it was, by most standards, amicable and kind. It was agreed upon. We came to it together, but it still wasn't any fun. And I knew I never wanted to do that again. And so for a long time, I thought, well, the only way to never get divorced again is to never get married again.
Right.
So for a long time, that's been how I have felt. And that shifts, I do feel it shifting. And I know myself enough to know that when I think about marriage, I think about it in two different ways. I think about a covenant relationship between two people who love each other very much, and they covenant to be each other's person. And they agree on what that looks like for them. And then you have a state marriage, and that serves a different purpose. That's legal information. That's how you're seen in our society. It gets you labeled in the obituary the right way. There are two different aspects. I do know that right now, the covenant relationship is important to me. That matters to me a lot. To be with someone and to work towards something together and to agree to be each other's person. Marriage, if I could predict the future, my hunch is I will want it. But right now, I'd say it's not necessary for me.
And that is okay. I actually think that is desirable, to feel comfortable with where you are now, and also be open to that changing.
Oh, yeah.
I think a lot of people get caught up in what they feel now and believe what they feel now has to be fixed. But what you feel now can evolve over time, and you may feel something different. I know personally for me, when I went through my divorce, I was committed. All right. Last season, we did a show called Pro Theology. So, you know, I was committed after I got a divorce, and I might go into that story a little bit. I'm going to be a whore for about 5 years. I was like, listen, I'm about to wild out. Like, I'm going crazy for at least 5 years before I even consider getting married again. And then here come that damn Pamela. She cut that short so fast. I was like, you ain't even let me like get going good. Like, come on.
That's how it happened, ain't it?
So yeah, you got to be open to your feelings changing over time. So I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah. Kingmaker, what about you, man?
Yeah, I don't believe that marriage is necessary, but I believe it's beneficial. I see marriage in parallel to academia. Marriage is the PhD of relationships. A PhD is not necessary, but it has benefits to it. On top of that, you have to work really hard to get a PhD, and it puts you in a position where the PhD opens up certain doors for you. From a biblical standpoint, Paul literally talks about the only benefit to being married is if you can't control your fleshly desires as a single person. So he looks at it as to keep yourself from being all over the place. Then it's best that you take that out on one person. Being the kingmaker and operating from a lens of purpose, I also have a caveat that it is only beneficial when you are in your purpose and connected to a purposeful person that helps you get to the place that your purpose can be optimized. Because you can get married and be outside of your purpose and then have this beneficial relationship that doesn't have benefits for you. Because as a person that does a lot of marriage coaching, you realize that people are married and the person that they're married to was only connected to them because they were outside of their purpose, and he picked up a hitchhiker and put that person in the place of a purposeful benefit. Within that, I think that it again is not necessary, because I do not believe that everybody is designed to be married. I also don't believe that there is somebody for everybody, because there are some people who have been designed to be single, in my point of view. But if there is a beneficial, purposeful relationship, it allows you to have that PhD relationship experience, whether heterosexual or homosexual, that puts you in a position to get further than you would if you had done it all by yourself. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I love that. Talking about
I'm sorry,
definitely.
I had to do it.
Yeah, talking about that companionship and that person that drives you towards your purpose. I think that's very important. And I think it's something that we don't discuss enough when it comes to romantic relationships. At the Faith Community, at some point, we're going to do a ministry on romantic relationships, because I'm of the mindset that marriage is not necessary. And let me just first acknowledge some of the people who are with us in the live virtual audience and their commentary. I want to shout out Robert for bringing up this point, which I think is very important, because he said for some groups who were denied the option of marriage for many years, once given the right, it may be necessary for those people as a symbol of redemption. So shout out to those people in the Q plus community who for a long time were told you don't have the right to even get married, to even consider marriage. And many times when you're denied something for so long, it makes you want it even more. So again, this conversation is not an absolute rule for everyone. As with pretty much anything we discuss, you have to make the decision for yourself if marriage is necessary for you. And then because marriage is not a one-person show, you have to be in conversation with the person or people with whom you're going to be in a relationship to decide, is it necessary for them? And so Dewan just said marriage saved his life. I mean, everybody is different. And I think what we need to break away from in the church is mandating that everyone live by the same marital ethic. Like marriage is the pinnacle of life. Because for some people, man, marriage is everything. And for others, not really a big deal. For me personally, I talk about my experience. I wanted to get married because of the doctrine and my tradition about sex. I was convinced that marriage was the best way for me to have guilt-free sex. I'm a highly sexual individual. Pamela knows that well. And I was like, okay, the church told me you can't have sex outside of marriage, but I really want to have a lot of sex. So let me get married. And not like force a marriage, but if I feel compatible with somebody, then let me get married. Now, here's another thing. When I got married the first time, my partner was a virgin. So I really thought, oh, we did it right. Like we good because we didn't have sex before we got married. And according to my church doctrine, that means we good for life because we did it the right way. And that's a bunch of bullshit. Let me tell you that right now. Because when it came to Pamela, I did test that out before we got married. And I'm glad I did. I can't get no help. Ain't nobody gonna talk back to me.
Hey.
I'm sorry. My mic was muted. My mic was muted.
Listen, you don't got the pig in the poke, brother.
Yeah, I think that's beneficial, Smith, because we've talked about this in a prior episode. We had a mutual associate that got married to a virgin. And he thought he was doing it the right way, and came to us as a gentleman and was very, 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 very frustrated because he was well endowed and because his wife was a virgin. When they finally had intimacy after dating for several years, she hated it. She couldn't take it. She didn't enjoy sex, and she refused to continue having sex with him. And his concern was, if I did it the right way and didn't test it out before, what are my options? And I think we have to be honest with people, particularly from a Christian standpoint, that a lot of what we have been taught, told, and developed on is not a stone written rule. You've got to figure out in marriage and in dating what works best for you, because what works for another relationship will not be the template for yours. And what made another couple succeed can make your relationship die. So you've got to know what works for you and don't use a quote, quote, biblical template for you that won't even stand up in Bible conversation.
Well, all right then.
But that's so it. But I think that's just it, Vance. People have this picture of what marriage is.
Mm-hmm.
And Freeman and I have talked about this many times. You define what works for you and yours, or you and her, or her and he, whatever, your setup is.
Or all of y'all.
All of y'all. That works too. Either way, it is what you define it as and what works for y'all. I mean, every little bit of it, from the financials whether it's joint bank accounts or individual bank accounts, whether it's, he still has female friends and it's okay. Whatever works for you works for you. Don't look at your parents. And I think a lot of us have that tenement of looking to the epitome of what a marriage is for those who had parents that were married and saying, I want, my parents have been married 30, 40 years, or whatever that may be, and I want that. But what worked for your parents in the 70s, in the 80s, may not work for you at all. And redefining what that is, and it's all about, here's the key word to any relationship, communication is key.
Sir.
If y'all don't talk and figure that out, you got one idea what your marriage is supposed to be. Your partner has another idea what marriage is supposed to be, and then you never get to what you all want marriage to be.
That's mic drop worthy. Just the whole.
I mean, I can't drop a mic on myself, so that.
No, that's fine. But I think it's important because I think that ethic gets overlooked so frequently. Communication is key. I think we don't spend enough time there. If you're not having conversations with anybody you're in relationship with, romantic, marital, platonic, like if you're not communicating, it doesn't matter what your views are on marriage. You could just be in a romantic relationship without marriage. And if you communicate clearly, if you're on the same page, you'll have a healthier, more fruitful relationship than somebody who got married in the eyes of God, who doesn't communicate. So I think that's so important. But here's my question, and I want the ladies to jump in on this one, because we're talking a lot about, is marriage necessary? And we're saying that, it may be necessary for us, not necessary for everybody else. But we all come from backgrounds and traditions that told us the only way you can have sex that is pleasing in the eyes of God is to be married. What do we do with that, Nikki?
So I don't think marriage is necessary to have a healthy sexual relationship. And I don't think marriage guarantees that you will have a healthy sexual relationship. I do think that when two people can look at each other and talk about their expectations, their wants, their hopes, their desires, their fantasies, and can be straight with each other about those kinds of things, that's what is required to begin to build a healthy sexual relationship. So, and when it comes to the Bible's not so clear cut the way I read it. The Bible has lots of different examples of marriage, and very few of them look like what we say marriage should be today, which is between two people. And a great part of our Christian community would say it has to be between a man and a woman. So I think marriage is saying that you have to wait until you're married to have sex is a really great way to control teenagers, or to try to.
Ooh, shots fired. Oh! Ooh, so you just suggested
Soul level with Crevasse sister. Oh!
You just suggested that much of the church's doctrines on premarital sex is primarily a great way to control teenagers. Yikes. Karima?
She right. And here's why I'm saying she's right.
That's it? Oh, okay.
Right. So, the church talks a lot about premarital sex, right? What you should and should not do, right? And there's little grace for, those young people that have the evidence of sex. Somebody gets pregnant. So let me say it right. There's little grace for the women that get pregnant, right? And I know we had this conversation like episode 1. But then what I also find interesting is, in marriage, when that covenant is broken, and we talk about, now it's all about mercy and grace and forgiveness. So it's like you can't have it both ways. You can't, demonize people who are not married for having premarital sex. But then over here, we want to act like, just when someone steps out of this covenant and this agreement and they have sex with someone else that they're not married to, now we want to bring grace and forgiveness. You can't have it both ways. But yeah, the church, well, my favorite line when it comes to marriage in the church, of course, is that the marriage bed is undefiled. What the hell does that even mean?
No one knows.
They don't know. I remember being a young bride, right? I knew who I was before I got married. I had my hoish years, yes, I did. And I enjoyed it. That shit was fun as hell. But now I'm married, right? And I'm trying to figure out, okay, Jesus, it's me and you, right? Okay, so I know what I used to do. Is that still permissible here? And I went to ask the older women of the church, trying not to, shock them too much. Don't want to put too much of my business in the street. You understand? So I tried to ask them, is it all right if, in marriage, I do X, Y, Z? Oh, the marriage bed is undefiled. Okay.
Prima, that's what I don't like about church, because the old women did all of the same slutty stuff that the young women do, and they want to act like they ain't never did it when they get old. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Stop lying.
Stop lying. So
I'm sorry, Prima. Go ahead.
the church has been used to control. I lived that experience. My husband and I were shacking, as we used to say in church, before I got married, right? I had an apartment, he had his, but I was staying with him. My father called one night. This was, back in the late 1990s, mid 1990s, before we had cell phones and call ID and all that. So, I'm at my man's house, what I'm saying? And I answered the phone about 12:30, thinking it's one of my girlfriends, hello. And it's my father.
Oh.
Hi, baby girl. I'm like, oh, shit. I'm trying to put some, growing in my voice. Hi, daddy. I'm just calling to see. I just have one question to ask you. Just want to know, are you living with that man? I'm like, oh. I say, still trying to be grown, right? Because I'm over 21, barely, but I'm 22. Well, daddy, I got my place and he got his. But if we go out and stay late somewhere, I might stay at his house or he might stay at mine. Thinking I'm grown, right? I'm over 21. Can eat cornbread, don't get choked. I'm thinking that's going to work on my dad. My father said to me, that is not how I raised you. And I cannot support anything like that if that's what you decide to do. Click up. I was shook. So my first husband, he didn't shy away. He would instantly call my dad back. He said, what you doing next week, Wednesday? We getting married down at the courthouse. Be there or not. Click.
Oh my.
But it was that pressure. And so then when my children ventured out into the world, entered relationships, and began a co-habitual situation, I said, I'm not going to shame you like my parents shamed me.
Amen.
I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to sit down with you both, and I'm going to talk about what is beautiful about this and how you can leverage it. And I'm going to tell you from my lived experience where I see the pitfalls, not because you're living together, just because you are who you are, two individual people, regardless of if you decide to live together or not. So it's that shame that I can't get with the church. You're going to shame those who are not married, but all of a sudden that shame seems to go away, especially if you're talking to a wife whose husband has stepped out. And now I'm supposed to let him back in here, and it's supposed to be all love and forgiveness and grace and redemption. You can't have it both ways.
Smith.
Yes. Go ahead, man.
I think this is a serious conversation, particularly in the 21st century. because the church has done marriage and marijuana the same way. We have made people believe that they're both a drug that have to be outlawed if you're not doing it the way we say you should do it. And once CBD becomes legal, we say nothing. In this space, I think marriage is the same way. Seeing that when we really talk about sex, we understand that from a biblical standpoint, the average age of marriage was 15. So if you're getting married at 15, you don't have a lot of runway to mess up your sexual journey. Well, in our context, the average person gets married about 36 to 38. And the reality of it is, sex is fun. Sex is exciting. And sex is often more enticing with somebody you shouldn't be with. So when you're in that space, to now categorize it as God only made sex for a husband and a wife, then what you're really saying is, I don't want you to eat of the sweet fruit outside of the structure that we want you to maintain. And within that dynamic, I think it is important for us to now become more honest with people that you don't need marriage to have kids. You don't need marriage to have an orgasm. You don't need marriage to enjoy sex. But you do need to understand that in the confines of marriage, there are benefits, there are parameters, and there are unspoken conversations that the Bible discusses that does not lend itself to our legality in the United States. Even when you talk about adultery, most of the rich, wealthy, and affluent individuals in the Old Testament were able to scapegoat adultery by just marrying everybody they wanted to sleep with.
Come on, Solomon.
So there is a caveat to this. You don't commit adultery if you married everybody you enjoyed. So there are so many nuances to this that we've tried to control that have put people in marriages that were not beneficial for them under the auspices of structured, organized minimalization. And we've got to now have a conversation that minimalization to minimize on a consistent basis. But I think we just need to apologize, number one, for our ancestors and other pastors, and then have a real conversation about sex, relationships, and marriage.
I think that's so important. I think next season we need to have a episode about teenagers and sex, because of how much our theology and our doctrine has been used to control and shame teenagers, and how that's hardwired into our young people. So we carry it into adulthood, and we're being controlled by something that was meant to control us in our teenage years. But now we're adults and we don't really know how to navigate it. I think we should do an episode on that, because we're harming kids. Like we don't tell kids about the pleasures of sex. Why can't we be honest and say, yes, sex is enjoyable. Sex is also a mature decision.
Yeah.
And as you're still developing, it may be difficult for you to process the implications and consequences of sex. But we just say it's bad, don't do it. God is going to be angry at you. He's looking down on you like a voyeur every time you have sex, and you might get an STD and you're going to get pregnant. It's like, man, stop doing that toxic shit.
Right.
Right.
Yep. And like I told my teenagers, I said, listen here, I'm not going to tell you what my parents told me, but at the same time, understand that there are real mature consequences that come with that I don't want to have to manage. So how about this? If you want you some good, then go and get you some good when you are good and able and grown enough to manage it yourself by yourself.
Yeah.
Because I'm not gonna manage the consequence of your sexual activity for you. You need to be able to manage that on your own, be it any of the consequences, especially the emotional consequence that comes from a sexual relationship.
And teenagers mature at such different rates emotionally. I mean, you know, a 17-year-old may not be as mature as some 15-year-old, just because that maturation happens at such different speeds for every individual person.
Yeah. John Hill just made a great point. He said, I don't know what that was for. Maturation.
I kind of knew it as I was saying it. To mature, how you mature, how you grow.
Yeah, sometimes we have to bring Kirkland on to explain what he's dropping the bomb on.
He needs to let us know backstage.
You're muted. You're muted.
Maturation.
Like if it's 4 syllables.
If it's big enough for for us regular people not to know.
Get off the screen.
Get my guy.
Get your ass off the screen. Don't you bring your ass back in here no more.
Listen, we gotta go because this is the end of the official episode, but there's more to cover in the after party. I just want to point out what John Hill said, who's with us on YouTube. He said most people don't know themselves at an early age.
Right.
And knowing yourself is essential to being a solid marriage partner. If you don't know yourself, how can you be a good partner to somebody else, a life partner to somebody else, if you don't know yourself? Going back to Greatest Commandment Theology, if you don't love yourself, how can you love somebody else? So many of us who were raised in traditions where self-love was stigmatized, no wonder it's difficult for us to have successful marriages, because we were taught that loving ourselves was somehow negative. So we get into marriages, we don't know how to establish boundaries. When we do establish a boundary, we don't know how to keep it. We don't know how to listen. It's just a string of toxic traits that we just carry on. But listen, we're going to continue the rest of this in the after party because there's definitely more to discuss. Thank you to everybody who's listening on the podcast platforms. We're coming back next time with the last episode of season 4, Capitalism and the Greatest Commandment. That should be, I'm not even going to say fun. It's going to be interesting. Capitalism and the Greatest Commandment. So join us next time on Holy Smoke, Cigars, and Spirituality. And we're going to continue this with the Patreon community right now. Okay. All right.
You a mess. Dewan say plenty of sex helped him.
Dewan, tell the truth. Tell the truth. If we go into that